bet you heard this one before. The book is always better than the movie. You might not agree, especially if reading is difficult for you or if you find reading tedious. You might not like that the book requires more time and a longer attention span, neither of which you may have. I'm not about to criticize either one of you. Those who prefer the book or those who prefer the movie, but let me consider why someone might say the book is always better than the movie and talk about the book that we care about the most, the Bible. Let me insert a little teaser here. You might be surprised by the conclusion. A movie lasts an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. If you're watching a Lord of the Rings movie, 3 hours. A book? It takes longer to read a little book like Old Man and the Sea than it does to watch The Fellowship of the Ring. It takes close to 40 hours to read Les Miserables or a fat biography of Abraham Lincoln. So how can something that takes so much longer be better? The shorter, longer difference is a clue. The word of your book can leisurely explore a subject's thoughts, reasons, feelings, plans, and motives in more detail than a movie has time for. A book can explain the motives of several characters before any of them does anything. A book can take side trips, so to speak, to develop history, setting, moral complexities. Books often freeze the action of a story to relish a key moment with symbolic graphic descriptions. Movies just don't have time for all that stuff. So we might say a book has the space to look around, look behind, look under, look all over. In contrast, I'm looking at life through something like a cardboard tube. The view is limited, no peripheral vision. Now, with this contrast in mind between movies and books, let's talk about the Old Testament generally and the story of the two prophets in 1 Kings 13 specifically. Surprisingly, the narrative technique of the Old Testament is more like that of a movie than a modern book. The Old Testament narrator is like the modern movie maker who accepts the power and the limitations of a camera view. The biblical narrator can show us a lot of details, but we quickly learn that he's not going to show us much more than brief sections of action and short dialogues. There will be few, if any, side trips to develop background. Only rarely does the Bible narrator tell us what tone of voice someone uses when they speak. The Bible narration doesn't often give explicit explanations of a person's motives or a description of his inner conflict. We readers have to infer the missing information. Reading the Bible is like viewing through a camera lens. The only thing we can observe are what is in front of the camera, so to speak. And in its use of this rigorously limited perspective, the Old Testament stories are more like modern movies than modern books. I think tonight's home fellowship discussion is going to be a pretty lively discussion of these two prophets that are in 1 Kings 13. Not because the Bible tells us everything we might want to know about them. On the contrary, the biblical narrator leaves a lot of questions for us to figure out. It's almost like we're watching a mystery movie. So let's see tonight if we can unravel the mysteries of 1 Kings chapter 13.